Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today I wanted to share with you info regarding the supposed condition of Noah's black shorts, which he was wearing at the party and potentially leading up to the death of him. The condition can tell a story as to what he went through, and we need to try and understand at what point was damage caused, because that's the theme of today. Whilst there's been a heavy focus on the autopsy report, the physical injuries to Noah's body, mainly upper body, there has been a divide, a split. People believe it's murder, others believe accident/hit and run. There's not been like a definitive outcome. Officially, no definitive conclusion either. So it's quite disappointing. What other material and items do we have to use and try and figure out what actually happened? That would be the shorts. I've got a little clip to share with you which goes into detail, somewhat detail, regarding how they were of Noah's. And this is based off from what Partners in True Crime has said. So I just wanted to make that very clear. I'm going to share it with you in just a second, and then later we're going to apply it as for the importance behind it, how it links on, and what may have caused it, and I'll introduce the map analysis of certain key events which could link to it all. So do advise you to stick around to understand the full context of today. It's rather interesting. Welcome to anyone that is currently watching this live premiere. Share your thoughts and reactions on the right hand side of the screen where the live chat box is. And if you want to drop a comment down below under the video to let me know your additional thoughts, questions after watching this, be sure to do so. It will help spread with the awareness. And you'll also find a pinned message below if you do want to support this channel with alternative links to do so. I think one individual called Missing Remote said there is no button to interact with when supporting the channel, such as super chats and super stickers. That might be because it's during a live premiere, so the actual monetary icon will be, I believe, located on the right hand side under the chat box, if I'm correct in saying that after a live premiere, once it's ended, the buttons should go back to the normal position. I mean, it's worked for other people, so maybe others may need to check the settings and whatnot and go from there. And anyone else in between, like with gifted memberships, I think you might have to have your settings turned on in order to potentially receive them at times. With that being said, if you do want to catch up on recent coverage, more importantly, previous videos, you'll notice it top right where the eye symbol is. Click up there and then you'll be able to catch up. With that being said, let me play you the clip right now.
Yeah, because we saw the black shorts and they were ripped and they were tattered, and there was actually a cigarette burn hole in one of the legs.
After hearing the details there, it was rather eye-opening, considering that the lower body part of Noah's wasn't that badly damaged, yet his clothing was. Did the clothing act as a layer of protection? Would it have differed any more if Noah had been wearing a hat at the time and a shirt? Because he was shirtless for most part of it at the party. Who knows? It all comes down to how the person has been injured, attacked, the impact, the item, whether there's any edges, sharpness, blunt force, etc. That can come into play, not just with the injuries sustained to the body, but the condition of maybe clothing or equipment you may have on you at the time. So one factor that does need to be eliminated, in my opinion, up to now, besides it being torn, ripped, which is interesting, it's the burn hole. Because what would cause a burn hole? If there was a fire, what type of fire? If someone was smoking and it made contact, or contents from it made contact with the shirt and it burned through. Circular. That's the interesting thing. The shape of it, circular, would most likely be by smoking. But when it comes to party goers, they said none of them did that or engaged in those activities. And if they had done, because of the way people are nowadays and trends, it would be by vaping, so that wouldn't cause any burn holes whatsoever. As it was mentioned in the podcast by the lot, they mentioned it could possibly be an old piece of damage from the past, a family member accidentally causing that burn hole. Fair enough. So we just put that aside and we just focus in on the shorts. Torn, ripped, what would honestly cause that? Would you normally get torn, ripped shorts in a hit and run, or more so in a beatdown? I want to know your thoughts in the comments section. But whilst we discuss over this and go a little bit further, I think it's best to go on to the maps. Oh boy, so we've got quite a few markers on here, but the reason being is because this is one of the more rich, detailed account of events which supposedly went on based off from Caden Pressy's private timeline. If you were a bit confused as to which one we're going off from, not this. The red one is the Partners in True Crime public interview with Caden and what he stated. On the left is from the private interview. And the reason why I'm reading some events from this list is to try and understand at what point did Noah Presgrove have damaged shorts, ripped, torn, tatters, kind of like that. In terms of party footage, what we have seen, his shorts have been in decent condition, even up to 1:05 a.m. in the morning when you saw the back shot or the side profile of Noah when getting slapped by Brylan Sweat. The only difference was his bottom area. The shorts were a little bit dusty, so maybe he sat down, fell over at some point. But those events still before the side-by-side rollover. If we had the shower footage, could that put things into perspective? Depends if he was clothed or unclothed at the time. And I know some people could say, well, normally when you have a wash, you will take all your clothes off. But depending how full of a wash you're having, if it's a quick one, if it's a long one, are there other people present? In this case, yes. So maybe you might cover up to an extent, but we can get to that later. Obviously, we've got the surrounding map area to look at, but I just want to focus in on the text on screen. It's like a notepad. I've actually turned Google Earth into a bit of a notepad, which is kind of unique. I don't really see anyone else doing that. So, to zoom in, so it separates all the different events in the order Caden Pressy worded it as. So Caden said he went to the party on Friday. If anyone does come at me, attack me, yet again, it seems to be the pattern of Warlike Wrath takes the flak for other people's mistakes and incompetence. Nothing I can do about that. I just simply relay and try and make sense of what material has been given, presented in the public domain to some extent. And that applies to people in the community. That can apply to the police as well and how they handled the scene. Because there might be some discrediting here or there, but at the end of the day, if the authorities, the people you're supposed to look up to and trust, and then others elsewhere within the case, state this, highlight that, mark this, mark that, you're supposed to believe in it to an extent, and maybe you can question with time. And yet all the attention and all the attacks are on me. Yet I'm not the creator of these problems. I'm not the original source of it. So I think certain cretins out there will need to reevaluate themselves and their mindsets as to the source of where it came from. Kind of like the intelligent people hate me, who sounds awfully familiar to the one that threatened to sue me in the past. Really, really pathetic excuse of an existence and behaviour there. And others too, followers. But that aside, Caden Pressy supposedly arriving Friday. But that's not too relevant because Noah was present Saturday. And one of the key events that did supposedly take place at some point on Saturday was Noah Presgrove wrestling Mikey Lair outside on the party house property, and Noah Presgrove won. How significant is it really? Well, if you're having a bit of a scrap and a fight, clothing could be torn or ripped. You've seen street fights if you're wearing a vest or a t-shirt. Somebody grapples you, grabs onto your shirt, pulls it over your head, or rips it off completely as you're taken to the ground. That can lead to torn stuff. The same with shorts. If you're going for underhooking the body in between the legs, trying to go for a takedown, like a wrestling match, you could end up tearing the person's shorts. All that is valid, but likely didn't happen only because with it being a Saturday, At least from the party footage, what we have seen, Noah was wearing the beige khaki shorts on the Saturday. Noah only started wearing the black ones on Sunday. So that kind of eliminates the event, doesn't it? However, if there was any more wrestling or real fights escalating onwards, such as Monday morning, clothing could be torn. As for Noah's shirt, which he didn't really wear much of at the party at all and beyond, whether that was returned, retrieved successfully or not, as for the condition it was in, that was never really explained with hard, solid evidence. I mean, take in mind, the video today is basing off what partners in true crime have said from what they have seen. How would they see the black shorts? Well, I believe, if I'm correct in saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but partners in true crime actually went down to Terrell, Oklahoma to film, record an interview and communicate with Presgrove's family members, so somehow they were shown the shorts at some point. Originally, the black shorts were eventually returned to Dale in Presgrove by the hands of Jack Newton. What happened with those shorts? Did the family just keep a hold of them as, like, in memory of Noah, or in case it's valuable down at sometime in the future? I'm not too sure. But moving on, some other events which don't really link on much. The 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. Depends, but basically a Saturday argument where Noah Presgrove yells at Jack Newton. Nothing physical, supposedly. Still on Saturday, so not relevant to the black shorts. But then we move on to Sunday's events, where they go out shooting animals. Could that have led to ripped, torn shorts? Unlikely. What else do we have? All asleep. Monday, 1:30. So what I might have to do at some point, because this is an older project, and this is where it proves why it's not a good idea to have many, because it means you've got to go back over them and correct the timestamps. At the time, this is what was provided. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to argue, screw that. I ain't going to change that time. The real time is 1:05 a.m. because there was a photo screenshot of it with the timestamp provided too on the same day and date of the party. You might wonder, why am I not going to change it? Because this actual project was a side-by-side comparison from what Caden said from his own mouth. So he made the mistake of saying 1:30. It was actually 1:05. Oh well, mistakes like that can happen. Yeah, but take in mind, it's not just one. There could be more. And the time differences and discrepancies could be wider and wider and wider. I'm just using this, and you can view it as well as a measuring tool from what the horse's mouth stated originally compared to afterwards. Because, I've tried lining it up with that. I wanted to just reiterate it in case people wonder what this project is all about. Honestly, if you want a deeper side-by-side comparison, you always go back on my channel to look at the previous video that I did. But yes, as for the true time of 1:05 a.m, Caden Pressey films Brylan slapping Noah. The shorts were black that Noah was wearing and were in decent condition. No rips or tears. But then, you got the supposed 2:40 a.m. side-by-side rollover of Noah Presgrove hurt. Caden Pressey seeing a screenshot and supposedly a video of the after events, and Noah Presgrove visibly hurt because of a bloodied nose. No mention as in the condition of the shorts. So if there's already damage sustained to Noah's nose, could there be damage sustained to Noah's black shorts? Beside them being simply dirty or muddied, could they be torn and ripped? And that's why when going to the shower to wash up, he took the shorts off. And then after the shower, what did he do then? Well, it depends how you look at it, of course. And we'll get to that shortly. Then, as for everything else, not much going on there. 5:15, announcement of Noah's death, supposedly. That's pretty much it. So then we focus on to just the visual bit now. So really, it's either the side-by-side rollover or Noah's death. They're really the only two events that took place in which Noah could have had damaged shorts, ripped ones. Because what happened before that, at least the latest timestamp of 1:05 a.m, or more so 1:50 a.m, where Jack and Noah are in the bathroom and Noah's wearing his black shorts, appears to be in okay condition. So it's from 1:50 a.m. onwards, any other events which transpired which could have linked to Noah's shorts being damaged. If you used to base it off Jack Newton's timeline, as questionable as it may be, that Noah supposedly ran out of shorts after the side-by-side rollover and the shower situation, then he had to borrow some of Jack's white ones. Now, would there be any truth to any of that? There would be truth to what Jack said if Caden Pressy's timeline and recount of events didn't exist, because Caden was the one to contest Jack over the scene of the highway. Whereas when we go over here, just going on ground level, that Caden Pressy saw that Noah was wearing black shorts whilst dead at the highway. If Caden Pressy never mentioned that, then people may be more likely to believe in Jack Newton's timeline of the white shorts. And whilst it may not have directly happened, or it's not an ideal situation, let me explain to you how the white shorts would have made sense if it wasn't for Caden's timeline. The reason why it'll make sense is, at the end of the day, supposedly Noah may have not anticipated coming back to the party house after Sunday morning, because he went back home to his place of living at the time to have a proper shower, maybe get some sleep, change of clothes and whatnot. And then later on in the day, you got Jack Newton begging, pleading, or suggesting, asking Noah to come back to the party. I don't know how much persuasion it took, but he was driven down. Whilst he was invited to come back, Noah had time to prepare himself if he needed to take any clothes with him. Is there a chance that he just didn't? You get what I'm saying? Coming back to the party unprepared, not quite aware of what's going to happen next, but also not anticipating maybe a side-by-side rollover or the need to have an extra pair of clothes, possibly. There's that. So when the time does come round to Monday morning onwards, early hours, 2 a.m. onwards, side-by-side rollover, getting all dirty, mucky, shorts are a mess. Could the shorts have been damaged, ripped and torn? The vehicle rolls over. Did Noah fall out? Could he have fallen out, but his clothes, more so shorts, caught onto the vehicle or the corner edge of it? And as it went one way and Noah went the other, or rolled, it snatched, it tore it. Take in mind, I was partners in True Crime briefly described the condition of Noah's shorts. They don't explain clear enough as to how much damage, how torn, how shredded, completely 100%, in tatters, 50%, 25% damage sustained, 10% damage. Bit of a mystery. The more damaged the shorts, the more extreme it seems. You could infer from it that way. I think what we do need to acknowledge is it's not like a perfect cut. You know, if you used to use scissors or maybe a knife. If it's torn, a tear, ripped, it's kind of like the equivalent of me standing here and do a demonstration. well, we'll get to that later, depending how things go in this video. But it's quite like it's not a clean cut, it's messy, it's torn, there's strands. So whatever caused that could have been like it tugging, snatching onto something. Even something like, although you can't see it, if we go over to the highway, if you look at the, does it show? Can you see that fence? Or is it not easy to see? Of course, when I want to show you a fucking fence, there's no clear one. Right. See those fence posts? Fence to keep people in. Well, not people. There's animals on site to keep them in, to keep people out. Private land owned by whoever, landowners out there. It's normal. Farmland. You divide it up in terms of land, what you own and what you don't. And separate it from field to field, crop to crop. And if there's animals grazing, too. You don't want animals crossing over, it could damage crops and whatnot. But it tends to be barbed wire fences. And you know what barbed wire can do? It can cause some decent problematic injuries. This doesn't seem to be razor wire, so it's not completely fatal. But it can still snag, it can still tear, it can catch on the skin and rip. More so with clothing. If by some chance you were trying to climb over a barbed wire fence, it could catch on your legs, on your shorts. But wouldn't it apply to injuries to the skin? I guess it depends. It depends how you climb over it, possibly. All I'm suggesting is, I'm basing it off the possible slip of a tongue by Sarah Long that said, why would kids, party goers who are drunk, be picking up loose teeth in the middle of a wheat field to then take them and Noah's body to the highway to stage a hit and run or something else? We never mentioned a wheat field, only Sarah Long, so that's why it was quite eye-opening. But whilst there is a wheat field present, there could well be fencing nearby in certain areas. And if there is fencing with barbed wire, and if by some chance what Sarah says was true about teeth in the field, well then Noah would have to be there and likely have died in that spot. But to get to the field, maybe crossing over a fence line, and if there's barbed wire, why would Noah even be doing that? Oh, when he walked away for the final time to cool off? Maybe, maybe not. Or if he sensed danger and he was trying to escape, get away. What other options would you have? If you needed to flee the area, run away from someone or hide, you're going to run towards the highway? Maybe, maybe not if you wanted a lift, but if it's dark and a bit treacherous, maybe not a good idea. Is running across a field any better? There might be more cover if there's vegetation. If Noah has been known to wander off in the past and end up in certain obscure areas, maybe he could conceal himself. Or maybe it just comes down to where you're positioned and where the opposition enemies are. You might not be able to run towards the highway if the bad people are blocking that way. You've got to realise that when you get this dirt road just here, having gone past it a bit too far, give me a second. When you look down this dirt road, it's fairly narrow. And on both sides, there is supposedly a fence line. That separates from where the road is. On that side, you've got a massive field and it'll be fenced off for protection and privacy. You try climbing over it, your clothing could snag on the barbed wire. And the same applies to the field somewhere over that way. I can see a fence line. If Noah was to be running away or messing about, he could have climbed over. His shorts could have ripped. Possibly. You never know. And then onwards, died somehow. That's just an alternative theory. Besides the likes of the side-by-side rollover of the clothing catching on the vehicle when it rolls, if it's not that, it could be the fence line. And I believe this is a fence line here. The outline of it. Where it's like black. So if Noah was to climb over any fences with barbed wire, that could have caused damage to the shorts. And if it's not that, well then the only other event I could think of would be the death scenario. In the process of dying, fast or slow, painful or painless, at the time of the injury sustained to Noah could be the same time as the damage sustained to the shorts. See, pieces of evidence and clothing, especially when you haven't got a body, can still be vital and tell a story as to what may have happened to the individual, the victim, and where they could be. Some evidence is directional, and others more long-term, as in, there's some DNA upon it, or there's some blood, and how does that trace back to the perpetrator or the ones responsible? In this case, Noah literally straight up found on the side of a highway on the hard shoulder. But as for the shorts, not in good condition. What I would say is, it's interesting from what Caden Pressey had said. Whilst Caden Pressey is the one to refer to black shorts at the highway and give a bit of description as for the way Noah's body was positioned and neck was twisted, and he was up close with Noah, Caden didn't mention anything about the condition of the shorts. So does that mean that depending the angle and positioning of Noah's body, you couldn't quite see the damage to the shorts? Were they ripped or torn from the front, side, back, or all over? Don't know, because it was vague description by Partners in True Crime. It just would have been interesting, wouldn't it? That extra layer of detail. Were the shorts damaged at the highway or beforehand? If it links with the murder situation, you would think wherever the murder or the death accidental takes place, the shorts occur in that same spot as well, providing that Noah's wearing them. And I know I mentioned earlier, and I don't know if I mentioned it clear enough, that if Noah hadn't had other shorts with him because he wasn't fully prepared after coming back to the party on Sunday and he didn't anticipate that side-by-side rollover, by the time it did happen, and if the shorts were damaged, it would have to be if the shorts were damaged in that side-by-side rollover, then Noah would have no choice but to borrow someone else's. If the shorts were simply muddy or dirty, Noah could easily wear them after having a wash, patting it down, dusting it off. As said, the Brylan Sweat slapping Noah video showed Noah with dusty, dirty shorts, but Noah was fine with that. So why wouldn't he be after a side-by-side rollover then? You can clean up some shorts fairly easily. As long as they're wearable and they conceal your package and elsewhere, it shouldn't matter too much. I'm sure Noah isn't that fussy. If Noah is okay sleeping on a hard floor Saturday night, I'm sure Noah is perfectly fine wearing some dusty, dirty black shorts. But if the shorts are torn and ripped, they're not exactly practical to be wearing. So if it was linked with a side-by-side rollover, you could understand why Noah, who may not have any backups, would have to borrow Jack's. And then any events leading on from that, the shorts being found on the highway. It would make sense, wouldn't it, if Caden's timeline didn't exist? But, there is a but, even without Caden Pressey's timeline, the moment things go wrong, and we are drifting away from the black shorts for a second, but we're talking about the condition of the white shorts instead, is that if Noah had died at the highway, murder or more so by a hit and run, why the bloody hell would Noah's, or should I say borrowed shorts of Jack's, the white shorts end up in the middle of the bloody road? That is not normal. There is one little counterpoint that could be issued, and I might as well address it now. Those that are truly adamant and passionate that it's a hit and run could use an excuse or a counterpoint that the reason why the white shorts that Noah supposedly borrowed off Jack ended up in the middle of the road at the highway is because Noah was walking down the highway, supposedly, and he was drunk. He decided to take his shorts off and wave them in the air like he doesn't care, and then chucks them in the air and they land in the middle of the road. And maybe, just maybe, he was trying to cross to fetch and retrieve them and then got hit by a vehicle. I'm just thinking of a counterpoint, but for most part of it, you got to ask yourself, When it comes to a hit and run, normally, do your shorts or trousers end up flying off when you get hit by a moving vehicle at a certain speed? Yes or no? I would say your shorts or your trousers don't just fall off like that. Yeah, but what happens if the shorts were torn or ripped off when you got hit by a vehicle, or you got caught underneath the wheel, or you were caught, clipped, and then dragged, or clothing snatched onto the vehicle when passing? It somehow got caught up and it got ripped. It ripped off your body in some way, and that's how they ended up in the middle of the road. That would be an exception. And if it was Noah's black shorts, and because they were supposedly ripped, then one thing could link with another, as in a vehicle connection. But not with Jack's story, and not with the white shorts. Because if the white shorts were caught onto a vehicle during a hit and run, then they would have been more damaged. And at least from the reports, references what we've heard, the white shorts weren't in perfect condition, but there was no visible or surface level damage to that extent as the black ones. So that needs to be addressed. So why would white shorts end up in the middle of the road? If Noah was wearing them at the time of a potential hit and run, why would the shorts end up off Noah's body and in the middle of the road, when probably 10 times out of 10, if the shorts are in good condition and there's no tugging, there's no pulling, there's no catching, if you're hit by a vehicle, your clothes remain on your bloody body, right? The exception of some things, maybe some jewellery, maybe a hat, shoes, they could possibly fly off, depending how you're hit, how you're caught, the force and the speed. People have said in the chat that when you're hit, your shoes can fly off, slip-on ones, or even laced. I guess it depends how tight the fitting is. But when you're wearing trousers, shorts, or pants, they tend to stay on your body. The only time when they may fall down is if they're pulled down or they're a little bit loose on your body. That doesn't seem to be an issue for Noah Presgrove, because when you saw him at the party and he was wearing the black shorts, they didn't fall, they didn't slip off. Could you counter it and say, well, maybe Jack Newton's white shorts didn't quite fit on Noah's body. They were a bit too loose, so they kept falling down, up and down, up and down. I can't imagine that, in my opinion. The fact that the shorts were in, the white ones, in decent condition, not 100%, but good enough, with no tyre marks, tread marks over it. But the only time those white shorts were noticed in the middle of the road was by Tyler Hardy, that had to kind of drive around it. Very interesting. If the condition of the white shorts were relatively okay, no visible damage, no track marks on that, would that indicate that simply because they've not been touched by much traffic because it's early on in the day, but also more importantly because the shorts haven't been there for that long? And if they've not been there for that long, they're a bit more fresh. But are they fresher post Noah's death or not? Because if so, that could explain why they're in the condition they were in and where they were placed at. When you link it back to Caden's timeline of black shorts at that point, but later on, doesn't seem to be the case from what Tyler Hardy saw. Noah naked, white shorts present, Jack's, but in the middle of the road. Doesn't quite link in with a hit and run, that, does it? Why would Jack shorts end up at the highway? If Noah didn't borrow them, why would the white shorts be there? You know, when it comes to certain clothing, are you trying to pin the blame on someone else? Divert attention elsewhere? If Jack was somehow caught up within any foul play, would he be okay and go along with having his shorts being at the scene? Would that be a risky thing to do, or what? Now, to bridge the gap, that supposed highway footage, which was mentioned by Michael Fazekaz on Facebook months ago. And then what we heard in the private interview of June 2024, which was months afterwards when it was leaked public, where Caden actually acknowledged it about removal of black shorts and white shorts being added. But those white shorts weren't put on Noah's body. So, if you used to try and stage something which it isn't, by removing the black shorts, which would possibly have key evidence and DNA on, take it away. Yes, that makes sense, so it doesn't incriminate yourself. And let's replace them for alternative shorts. But why Jack's of all people? Is it because there could be an alibi behind it? As in, well, Noah had to borrow some, so he chose mine. And it's unfortunate how they ended up here. Maybe. But if you're going to do that and you're going to stage a hit and run, I think it makes more sense to stage a hit and run by replacing what were black shorts with white shorts, and ideally on his bloody body. Because with him being in the middle of the road, it literally feels like, providing the footage is real and it's true, you got a group of people, right, let's take the black shorts off. Right, we got the white shorts, let's put them on Noah's body. No, let's throw them in the middle of the road. So then Tyler Hardy, that drives on down a bit later, ends up swerving, going around it. Yeah, that's really stupid. That white shorts in the middle of the road is very, very odd, in my opinion at least. The act of switching the shorts about could be considered strange or bad, but it makes more sense behind it. If there is a form of foul play, if it is a murder, you kind of clearing up after yourself. Try and clear traces. I get it. It's not the right thing to do, but for them, it is, to try and protect themselves. But they're undoing it by putting white shorts in the middle of the road. It's just silly. Even if it wasn't the white shorts and it was Noah's black shorts, putting them in the middle of the road, it's just a bit weird and odd, because I don't think Noah would do it himself. But there might be more of an understanding or acceptance with just black shorts in the middle of the road than white shorts, because the black shorts tie in with the timeline, cadence, and if they are truly damaged, you could argue and say, well, they might be damaged because of a hit and run. But then how would the black shorts end up off Noah's body? Well, could have been ripped off somehow. That's the only counterpoint I can suggest at this moment in time. But it's unusual. So this is like the hit and run highway type accident of some sort as to how and why Noah's black shorts could end up damaged. Not that it does the white shorts any favours. For better clarity, just raises more questions. If it's not any of that and it's more so down to murder, a beatdown, being attacked physically, that can happen. And I think we'll try and do a demonstration right now. What I have by the side of me are a couple of tools and even a bit of clothing as well. This is just like a demonstration to try and figure out how clothing can become damaged. Maybe I can apply it to myself as well, but just take in mind as a disclaimer, no one else recreate this. I am a trained professional. Got to do that just because of YouTube and whatnot. You get how it goes. But I only got a couple of items in front. What we've got to understand is the type of injury sustained to Noah's body. It's more like blunt force injury. If any items, tools were used, it would have been blunt, not sharp. Not a sharp tip. No puncture, stab wounds like that. No knives, no swords, no sharp stakes, no sharp poles, blunt. Where when you hit someone, the deep tissue within and the impact absorbed, that's where the damage is. Possible bruising to the surface, and if not that, even deeper, worse. Any connection made to the bone breaking, and then that puncturing certain things, that type of blunt force, and it can vary, of course, down to the extremity of it. If it's by the hands of people, though, wielding tools, how could that come about? Noah wasn't wearing his shirt supposedly at the time of his death. And I say supposedly because at least from 10 times out of 10 of the party footage that I've seen and you have seen, he's not wearing any upper body clothing. So we're kind of presuming that when Noah did die, whether that be him walking away, him being at the highway, him being in a field or outside of the party house, wherever, he was shirtless. I'm wearing a shirt right now. I'm not going to do like a full-on accurate demonstration there because me being shirtless would be inappropriate for this video and my stomach wobbles. But in terms of if Noah was to be wearing clothing, even though it didn't happen supposedly, if he had been wearing clothing, would it have given him an advantage at all? No. Arguably would have made him worse off because, you know, if you're in a fight situation, you know, you're moving about or you're being ambushed and you're not anticipating it, you know, what are you going to do? What can you actually do? You're blindsided. It's 1 on 5. Doesn't matter how much of a good wrestler you are. If there's more people than you, you're going to be at a disadvantage. You might be able to take one person down or fight off, defend yourself against one, but then the rest come on in like a pack of wolves. I think it was described on an article somewhere, pack of gorillas, but I think that might have been a different case. Never heard of that reference, but it's a bit ironic, isn't it? Nevertheless, you're getting pulled, you're getting tagged, you know, it's like that. Taking mine, I'm going to be light on myself because I don't want to damage this top because I do like it. And I don't have any spare clothing either, you know, to like rip like that. So I've got to be careful. As for Sharon, well, probably have different ideas there. So you could get tugged on the arm like that. If you get tugged by the side, pulled in that direction, tugged on that side, pulled in that direction, tugged behind, if you're pulling behind like that, the material could choke you slightly. Was there any visible choke marks around Noah's neck? Don't remember hearing anything about that. You can let me know your thoughts down below. Even being pulled here like that, or pulled downwards like that. Oh, sorry, I think I pulled it a bit too far, that, apologies. You get the idea. You could be pulled in different directions, you could be manipulated. And if not that, the whole thing could be pulled over your head. I can't quite demonstrate that because it'll all come off, but if it's over your head, you're blind, you can't see there, you're completely incapacitated. Noah didn't seem to have that issue, so we don't need to focus too much in on it. But it's not just hands, okay? I should have been using this as well. If it's someone else's hand, like that, pulling, poking, something, hand down there. Well, not down there, but like, over there, like that, or hand on the shoulder. Hand on the shoulder. Why is this looking so dodgy? My goodness. Being pulled, clawed. You know, we didn't hear any references about the back having any scratch or scrape marks from fingernails, hands, if I'm correct in saying, right? See, this is what I mean. If there is some kind of beat down, some kind of physical attack by a person or group, would it have been by hands and fist or more so actual melee items because they didn't want to get the hands messed up or dirty? People talk about the self-defense wounds, any injuries on Noah's body which could highlight he tried defending himself, and that's a little bit unknown of. I mean, there was a point made about shoving it as in JJ Bumpaz supposed to having a bite mark on him, but that was by Dina Rose, the one that shouts and has capital letters. So, well, not just capital letters, it's like uppercase everywhere. So I don't know where that actually went in the end. But if it's just hands, right? Slap, punch, poke, prod, scratching down the side of the throat, choking like that, and even on the back, you know, how do I do it? I can't really do it, can I? Just pull it down. It's like that, pull down. Yeah. But we didn't really see any claw marks, didn't see any nail marks on the back. So we kind of rules that out. So then the only real thing we're left with, and it's not exactly an accurate representation, but like shorts, okay? Before anyone gets any conspiracies, these are not Noah's shorts, okay? These are mine, okay? What else we're here? What does that say? Large. These are large. It's all right, I guess. But kind of like shorts. Now, these aren't like the typical shorts you'd probably wear outside. These are more like pajamas, okay? As some people would call it, jammies. Okay. So as an example, these are what were damaged, but where exactly? Where were they ripped? Was it the side bit? Was it I can't get out. Was it the bottom area? Because didn't they say on maybe one of the sides, the left, were the cheeks grazed? Not these, but the ones down there. Was one of the cheeks grazed? If the cheeks or a cheek was grazed or there was some abrasions on Noah's lower body part, does it match in line with where the damage to the shorts were? You get what I'm saying? It's like the other perception. If you were being dragged along by a vehicle, by a cart, a horse, you're being dragged across the ground, and that friction, that tension of your body, or more so your clothing, rubbing against the ground, it's kind of like going to erode it in a way. It's going to break it down. And if it gets caught in anything along the way, it could tear. So there's that as well. It all comes down to the extent of the damage to the shorts, the extent of the rips, and how many rips or tears. Is it one big rip, or is it multiple all over? Is it literally a complete mess, or still identifiable as shorts? You know what I'm saying? Would Noah have ripped his shorts earlier on at the party and then continued wearing them? Maybe not. So likely the shorts being ripped, damaged at the time of when Noah's body was damaged. So if somehow you could work out what may have caused the damage to the shorts, which may be harder to work out as in what caused maybe physical injuries, just work with the shorts, because wherever Noah goes, his shorts follow. And if the shorts are damaged at the same time as Noah's injuries, if you can work out what may have caused damage to the shorts, it could be the same thing that may have caused damage to Noah's physical body, maybe. So, like with the top, how I said, if someone was tugging and pulling for some reason, pulling down, pulling the leg area, ripping it like that, that could tear. Depends how good the quality of the clothing is. Some clothing may be more stretchy than others. You have to pull it with a level of force as well. There's that to take in mind. If there's any objects or tools, if there's like a pipe, a baton, a golf club, how could that cause damage to the shorts? A blunt object just smacking. It's not. It would have to be jagged. There would have to be a sharp piece or an edge where it may catch onto it, and as you're pulling away, it kind of snags and tears it. But it would have to catch. If you had more of a sharper object, and that's why I've got these, just a prop, like claws, okay? Like claws. If they made contact, digging in, and then pulling down, that could rip. You think of a lion, a tiger attacking a person in the wild or at a zoo. They can shred clothing, can't they? Can a hit and run cause damage to shorts? If it catches, if it tears, catches on. The same with a side-by-side rollover. If there was like a puncture wound or a clean cut, well then you would say, well maybe a knife, a sharp object caused that. Doesn't seem to be the case here. And as for most, if not all, the injuries Noah sustained, there was no like stabbing or any puncturing type wounds like that on the outside breaking in. So that could whittle it down a little bit. So a vehicle can catch onto clothing and tear stuff. A blunt object, less likely to cause damage to shorts unless there's like a jagged piece and edge that may catch on. The usage of hands, which can be considered blunt force if used to close up into a fist, but it can also transform into an open hand with a greater surface area, not as much damage, but the usage of your fingers, your tips, your nails, if they're sharp or so, you could reach in and, just rip, grab, tug, pull on possibly the clothing. If there was a fight, if something did escalate, maybe. Around the time of when Noah walking away from the party house and someone or some people following him out to follow him up, or if Noah was leaving and crossed pathways with either Texas boys or maybe Travis Monson, maybe Colton Newton and a skinny person that was returning back to the party to get some alcohol. Would that be before or after? Well, in my opinion, if Noah did cross pathways with those 3 guys, and the mystery one, I don't think the guys would do something to Noah and then go on to the house like nothing happened, because they might have blood on them. If there was some kind of link, crossover, it would probably be 3 guys either come on down before Noah has left, or after Noah has left, they come on down, and then as they're leaving, they cross paths with Noah, who's trying to return back to the house. If there was some kind of, meet up, well, more indirect, not anticipated. So there's that. But I do want to know your thoughts on the matter in general. What do you think caused the damage to Noah's shorts, and how significant do you think it is? I think it's pretty significant because, once again, it's another feature and a piece of evidence that can tell a story within this case in trying to understand what caused it, when, and a part of the timeline. Considering from Caden's, they followed him up to Noah's death and on the highway, whether it took place there or took place beforehand. I did do a short video about this, but unfortunately, it didn't quite reach everyone. YouTube Shorts are a little bit corrupt at the moment. What about standard format videos? A bit different. I know Lisa mentioned an interesting comment regarding my channel, and I'll respond back to her. Well, I'll just respond back in general in a standalone video, just to kind of like explain the situation as to what is happening. I could get attacked for it, but I'm still going to do it anyway, just so it's clearer and more understandable. But I did say in the short clip that if anyone responds back, if you would like to see a follow-up, more in depth, then I'll do so. And I think it was Kelly, shout out to Kelly with a green profile picture, that said, yes, do it. So here I am, that's why. And just the clip by Partners in True Crime acknowledging damage to Noah's shorts, it just doesn't get acknowledged enough elsewhere. Just like supposed blood, just like this or that, and other events in between, timestamp of this side-by-side rollover. Whether it's truly significant, whether it's 100% accurate or not quite, it's just events like that don't get acknowledged enough, and they fade away. They may become forgotten. So I bring the points back up to bring it to light, so then people can talk about. And even if some things are dismissed, discredited, debunked along the way, and I might take the flak for it, at the end of the day, I am the creator, the causation, and the catalyst behind it reaching ahead, because I'm the only one that's actually bloody talking about it. Okay? So there's that as well. Hopefully you found this video mostly interesting. As I said, leave a comment below to let me know what you think, whether you agree or disagree. And if you want, feel free to share the video. That would be appreciated. We'll see what happens next. And if there needs to be a follow-up update, then maybe that can be done. And if not, I'll just see what other ideas are on the list that need to be ticked off, long or short. I'll try and get it done. In the meantime, a bit of focus on Kenny Veach as well. Acknowledge that case. So yeah, that's pretty much it. My name's Warlight Ref. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.